Right.
Nearly ready. Let's just set it up.
Whenever you are.
Okay. Is it working? I think we're live. Cool. So hi everyone, welcome to today's short little video. I just wanted to introduce you guys today to Brian from the MicroLoan Foundation of Australia. As you might know, a lot of my clients know that I've always partnered with a different charity or cause with every single business that I've ever owned my whole life, because it's just really important to me to contribute to something bigger than me as a part of my success. I think that's nice to share. And I've recently just come across Brian and the MicroLoan Foundation and felt an instant kind of connection to their mission and what they're doing. And I'd love to introduce Brian and let you kind of share the story of, you know, how this started and what you're doing and the kind of difference that you're making in the world.
Yeah, certainly. So you'd like to take it from there, by all means. Without going into too much detail, sufficient to say that I lived in Africa for 10 years and employed up to 100, 120 people. I had several businesses there in my 20s. I was very entrepreneurial. Moved to Australia with my young family, my wife, who was second generation, being born there, and I had a great affection for the people. That part of the world, they're just wonderful people. They have I would call them the Italian Irish of Africa, sort of, and that's not disrespectful. They just got a wonderful sense of humour, and they're so friendly. They put up with the most intolerable living conditions and so on and so forth, but always with humour. Anyway, I was looking towards retirement a decade ago, and I was looking for something that I could contribute to that would go to women in Malawi, or in Africa certainly, but Malawi preferably. And I couldn't see anything that was based in Australia. And the reason I was thinking of that was because I wanted to get the tax benefits. You know, in Australia, if you make a donation, you get 50% on the margin of your tax, etc., etc. So just by chance, I came across an organisation called MicroLoan Foundation that were operating in Malawi, and they were actually based in London. And I contacted them and got on really well with the fellow. It was just two people in this charity, and I learned a bit about their background. And I was going to London, so I went and met the founder, Peter Ryan. And he and I got off really well. We met in a pub in Chiswick in West London, and I said to him, because I had a background in franchising for the last 30 years, I said, Peter, would you franchise MicroLoan Foundation to me? And he said, I'd love to. So what he did, he gave us access to all of their intellectual property, all of their support, all their infrastructure, all of their marketing and branding and so on. And what we did was to found 10 years ago, exactly now actually, MicroLoan Foundation Australia. So we set this up here. It's not an easy process, but we got that done over a period of probably 8 or 9 months. And in 2009, we opened an office in a place called Malanje in southwest Malawi, and we've got the ball rolling. And basically, what we do here is raise funds. They go over to Malawi, to MicroLoan Foundation, who manage the distribution. So what they do with those funds is really what the key is. It's a process called microloans. It was developed by a fellow called Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh in the 1970s. He was a university professor and thought that there were different ways of handling poverty. And he saw that it was women who are in a major proportion the people who suffer from poverty in this world. The men often manage, they get out, they get a job or whatever it might be. So he created this business model where they get a group of women, they would be lent some money to start a business, they'd be trained, they'd be given support and mentoring, and then they would repay that loan over a period of 4 months. They'd pay interest, and then they could get another one if they met the requirements. And that was the model that Peter Ryan had seen. And he started in Malawi in 2002, famously with £10,000, one man and a bicycle, who he basically briefed as his sort of first person on the ground. And from there, it grew. And so our Australian operation really is pretty autonomous. We have an identified office in Malawi, which is a loans office, and we can see exactly what's happened there. And over the period of the 9 years we've been operating now, we've sent over close to $400,000, because last year we actually had a bumper year, we sent 120. But the interesting thing is, with that money, because the loans are recycled, the loans last for 4 months, the interest that the women pay covers the cost of the training and support, which is all done by local Indigenous Malawians who are trained in doing it. They start off when the woman a group of women is selected and join. They're trained in business, they're trained in bookkeeping, they're trained in marketing, they're trained in a whole aspect of business. And then every 2 weeks, they're basically mentored. So their fellow arrives, their trainer, mainly male, but not exclusively. But they don't have brick and tile offices or anything like that, or Land Rovers. They actually come on a 125cc Suzuki, little pannier on the back, and that's the travelling office. And that is basically the way it operates. And so we, over that period of time, with the 400,000 that's been sent, we calculate that's given the equivalent of $2.4 million worth of loans, because, as I say, it gets recycled. So between 2 or 3 times a year, each amount is used. And that means we've actually provided more than 30,000 women with loans. They have an average of 5.5 dependents in each family. Most families have at least 1, if not 2 orphans who've been, their parents have died from AIDS and so forth. That was a terrible affliction there. So in total, we've affected close now to 180, 190,000 people, which is remarkable when you look at the amount we've sent.
I really love, sorry, I just wanted to say, I just really love the concept of this, because it is more about, like, it's not a charity where you just like, here, you know, here's food, here's water, which are great, you know, there's so many charities that do that, but it's really empowering people. It's really giving them the opportunity to actually, start a business for themselves, support their family. I know from some of your success stories, people have even gone on to like employ people and now build these like really large successful companies. So it really is kind of the philosophy of, you know, teach someone how to fish rather than just giving them fish. And so that's why I personally related to it, because I'm so into, like, you know, empowering women and allowing them to control their destiny in their lives. And I just think it's so amazing. Can you share any like success stories off the top of your head that you can think of? I know there's so many.
Yeah, there are a number, and we're collecting more regularly as well. But for example, Catherine, I might just prompt myself here. Mbalaka was a woman that came to us in the late 2000s, and she basically would get fish from the local fishermen, and she would take them around the village and to other villages, selling them, retailing the fish, if you like. And then what happened was she managed to get a loan, and she started a little grocery shop at the back of her house, just stocking tins of, you know, tomatoes and oil and things like that. That then gave her the funding to be able to. Sorry, I was in a distraction there. That gave her the funding to be able to basically put a tap outside her house, and the tap she had outside the house, then she sold water. She gradually went from there, got another loan, ended up buying a boat because her husband used to rent space on a boat to do fishing. And she's in a position where several years later, she's now built herself a couple of houses, which she rents as sort of dwelling rooms, if you like, for workers and so on. She owns the boat. She owns something like 10 fishing nets, which her husband looks after renting. So there's someone who now, in fact, employs 9 of her grandchildren and employs her husband. So
that's amazing.
That's one of a number of cases. And for people who are interested, those stories and similar ones are on the website, and we will be sending them out regularly to people. We've quite a number of them that come through. So that's an example.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, and it's really, giving people the opportunity to become, you know, an entrepreneur that may not have had that opportunity if they don't have that initial startup loan and mentoring and training and support. So I just think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. And that's why, like, I've always had, you know, a charity or a few charities that I've partnered with my companies, and we've just decided recently to give a percentage of, you know, every client that joins my Wolfpack Mastermind program goes to the MicroLoan Foundation and then becomes a loan for somebody in Malawi, in Africa, who can then start a business, and then that loan gets paid back, and then it gets loaned to someone else, and it's just a gift that keeps on giving. So thank you so much, Brian, for, you know, telling us all about that today. Is there anything else that you would like to share about it, or if anyone wants to go and look you up, where can they find that?
Yeah, sure. Well, certainly there's our website, microloanfoundation.org.au. So you can find that fairly easy. A lot of information on there. We do have newsletters we send out, so you will find that you can complete your details. We don't spam, but we do send out periodical newsletters with bits of information to you. But what's really exciting is that after 6 or 7 years of trying to get into Zimbabwe, last year MicroLoan Foundation opened their first office in Zimbabwe. We probably don't appreciate in Australia, many parts of the world, how difficult politically it can be to actually get access to these countries, because it's very sensitive and they don't always look favourably at foreign organisations coming in. But nevertheless, it's up and running and very successful. They've got the other point that I might mention, Carissa, is that the repayment rate that we get is running in excess of 99%.
That's amazing. So pretty much everybody pays the loans back.
When people don't have anything, they just so appreciate the opportunity. And we're not talking about large amounts of money here. We're talking maybe $50 to $75 is the loan.
Yeah.
And that in itself is enough for them to be able to get a business up and running. And the little villages that people go to, where there was once a dusty street with a few buildings, and now there's a thriving little market with 10 or 12 stalls. Someone selling tomatoes, someone selling fish, someone selling repaired second-hand shoes, and all sorts of things. A lot of them bake cakes and different things like that. The ingenuity is quite extraordinary, the range of sorts of businesses they start. But the biggest thing to me with this, and something I suppose that hadn't really impacted me at the beginning, was the impact it has on women and their self-esteem. Because they are desperate for every penny. I mean, there are women that when they're 15 or 16, they have to get married because there's no way of supporting themselves, and their family, their parents can't afford to support them. So their only option is to get married. I mean, that's a pretty devastating thought. And for someone who'd like to see a little bit more of that, and also how the process is done, on the website, on the homepage, there's a video done by the BBC from the UK with a woman called Deborah Meaden. She's very famous in the UK as an entrepreneur on television with a business called The Lion's Den. And she invests in lots of businesses. And she went out to Malawi to do put a program together, was aired on the BBC for 30 minutes, I think. We've got a short of, I think, 8 or 9 minutes of that, which is edited. And it tells some of these stories and just shows how it's done. I've watched it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck every time I see it, and I can't fail to get a moistness in my eye. It's just beautiful. So
I think I actually put that one, like embedded that one on the Wolfpack Mastermind website on one of my websites. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. The other thing is, it's something that I had no intention of starting a charity. The last thing in my mind, it was just, I'm entrepreneurial. I've had 20 odd businesses over my career.
Well, you help businesses to set up their business as a franchise, don't you? You're still doing that, yeah.
That's exactly right. Because I'm active and I enjoy it. Tried retiring, got bored very quickly, but also because it's a way of supporting MicroLoan Foundation. So the way it evolved was that Franchise Simply, my business, actually we cover the cost of the overheads. So we do the website, we cover various other costs and so forth, so that something like 96 to 97 cents of every dollar that people generously donate to MicroLoan Foundation actually ends up as a loan in women's hands in Malawi or Zimbabwe or Zambia in Africa. Yeah. So I suppose that's because we decided at the beginning we didn't want to rattle tins in shopping centres, and we get approached by lots of agencies saying, well, you know, we can raise money for you. But I don't feel comfortable when you look at what that costs to think that someone donates $10 and you realise that $7.50 of that gets spent on people's wages and advertising. So we've kept a low profile.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all of that. I hope that anybody who's watching might consider also going and having a look and maybe making a donation or something if they feel called to. And I think it's just a really important thing to be aware of as well, that, like, you know, the more successful you become in business, it actually means the bigger opportunity you have to give back and make a difference. And I've always looked at it that way. Like, I don't see that, you know, you have to just go into trying to money, you know, for yourself. You know, the more money you make, the more you can actually contribute and give back and make a big difference in the lives of others and the world as well. So clearly something that Brian is very passionate about, and I'm very impressed and, you know, inspired and in awe of you for, you know, setting all this up and making such a big difference. And I look forward to supporting it more on our journey. So thank you so much for taking the time to have
that's an absolute pleasure. Delighted, Carissa, that you approached us. And there is a synergy between people in business. We have a lot of people who maybe donate $10 a month, or others that every time they sell a business coaching program, they send us the money to lend a woman the money to start a business. So and we've got people that have a retail business that give us a percentage of their turnover and so forth. So there are lots of ways of doing it. But you're right, it's incredibly satisfying just to know you're having a bit of impact, but not just today, but into the future, almost for perpetuity, because those funds are there to grow. So no, thanks for the opportunity of sharing our background with your watchers, your viewers and your listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for whoever is watching or whoever watches the replay in the future. Have a great day, Brian. Thank you.